and welcome to my session on reading and the books I'm reading and what I would recommend at the moment. In case you're wondering who I am author Wendy H Jones, and I write books for children and young adults and adults. Um, my children's book, picture book, is Bertie the Buffalo, and the latest one will be coming out. It's called Bertie Goes to the Worldwide Games. The books I write for 10 to 14-year-olds are the Ferguson Flora Mysteries, and this is the first one, The Dagger's Curse, which is coming out in a new edition with a new publisher and is going to be called The Mystery of the Cursed Dagger, although it will still be the Ferguson Flora Mysteries. I write books for adults. This is a humorous mystery series, the first one. Antiques and Alibis is Cass Claymore Investigates, and that's a funny book. Cass Claymore has no clue what she's doing as an investigator, and she's got all sorts of strange people helping her. Then my Detective Inspector Shona Mackenzie Mysteries, the first book is called Killer's Countdown. But I'm not just here to talk about my books today. I'm here to talk about what I'm reading, what I would recommend you read, and other people's books. And I love talking about reading. As a writer, you need to be a reader. That is important. It's key to writing. And it's also key that you read widely. I'm mainly a mystery writer, but I write in multiple genres and I read in multiple genres. So it's important to read widely. So I've got an eclectic mix for you here today, and I've enjoyed all these books, and I would highly recommend them. Some of them are new, some of them were written some time ago, but I would recommend them all, and I am sure you will be able to get them all from the Angus Libraries. Before I start, I would like to say thank you very much to Angus Libraries for inviting me along for their session for Book Week Scotland. Ordinarily, I would be doing this in a library itself, but I'm doing it in my office at home, which, as you can see, I'm a great reader. There are books everywhere, and it stretches even further than this. Trust me, I love reading and I love libraries, so it's a real honor to be able to do this. So my first book that I'm going to recommend is White Teeth by Zadie Smith. Now, Zadie Smith is a phenomenal writer. This book was the winner of the 2000 Whitbread First Novel Award. She has more books out now, but I really like this one. Now, what's it about? I'm going to read from the back. One of the Times actually said about it, do believe the hype, buy into it, cuddle up with it, savor every sentence, then turn around and reread. And I would agree with that. So what it's about, I'm trying to find where it says what it's about. Heavens. They're saying it's one of the most talked about fictional debuts of recent years. White Teeth is a funny, generous, big-hearted novel adored by critics and readers alike, dealing, among many other things, with friendship, love, war, three cultures and three families over 3 generations. One brown mouse and the tricky way the past of his coming back and biting you on the ankle. It's a life-affirming, riotous must-read of a book. It is. It's an excellent story. It is beautifully, beautifully written and gives you an insight into a different culture. And I like the fact it gives you an insight into a different culture, because it's so easy just to stick to our own cultures because we're comfortable there. But we can learn so much from other cultures. Now, normally I would do that by 1, reading, but 2, traveling around the world. Well, we can't travel around the world at the moment, which is why I think it's important that we do think about reading and the way that can take us into other cultures. I'm reading a lot of historical fiction at the moment because I'm writing a new series, which I'll tell you about in a moment, and I've been asked to write it. But one of the ones that I like Jessica Fellowes. Jessica Fellowes' books are outstanding. They really are. And I read her first book and I really enjoyed it. But this new one, Bright Young Dead, is equally as good. And I got it recently. I had a book voucher. I was very fortunate. I had a book voucher for £50 and went to Waterstones and spent it. But you don't need book vouchers because you can go to the library and read these books. So in this one, A Masquerade Ball in 1925. Meet the bright young things, the rabble-rousing hedonists of the 1920s, whose treasure hunts were a media obsession. One such dangerous game takes place at the 18th birthday party of Pamela Mitford, but ends in tragedy as cruel, charismatic Adrian Curtis is pushed to his death from the bell tower of the church neighbouring the Mitford home, Asthall Manor. The police quickly identify the killer as Maid Dulcie, who is discovered to be a member of a notorious gang of female thieves, the 40 Elephants. But Louisa Cannon, chaperone to the Mitford girls and a former criminal herself, believes Dulcie to be innocent, and alongside Pamela and Nancy Mitford sets out to clear the girl's name, all while the real killer may only be steps away. Now, as you can gather, these are based around the Mitford sisters, and the Mitford sisters were obviously prominent in the 1920s to do with suffragettes, and everybody knows about the Mitford sisters. So I think this is a brilliant premise for a series, and I really love it. It's like the golden age of crime fiction. And it's great to be transported to a different time, a time where there's no COVID and people could just be themselves and realize that they had different things to worry about in those times, like votes for women. Another historical book I'm reading is one of the Patrick O'Brian series. Now, Patrick O'Brian writes books set in the 19th century, set on board ships. And they take you through the Battle of Waterloo and beyond. So you're probably thinking, well, Wendy, you write contemporary crime series, so why are you worrying about Patrick O'Brian's The Yellow Admiral? Well, the reason I'm reading this is later in his series, post Waterloo. And the reason I wanted to read it is because I have been asked to write a series or a book, but I think it will be a series based on the true story of a Scottish gentleman called, blimey, his name's completely escaped me, Thomas Graham. Thomas Graham was a real life person who went to Surgeons Hall. He did his medical training. Then he joined the Royal Navy as a medic. And Thomas loved writing letters. He loved writing poetry. He loved writing about everything. So recently I've been sent all his letters, everything about him, his poetry, everything. I've been sent this and I've been asked to write a book based on his life, but a fictionalized account of his life, and I am doing that at the moment. So I'm devouring these sorts of books. But this is a fantastic series. I'd already read some of the first books in this because, again, they're different. Reading widely is brilliant because you can actually learn more about different ways of life. What was it like then? And by reading this, I can help my writing have a better flavour, bring more aspects into it, bring life into it, because I know more about it. Even though Thomas Graham himself wrote home telling his sister all about what the ship looked like, even down to what it was built from. He really did write everything. Then, just for fun, I'm reading this one, Donna Leon. Donna Leon, brilliant, brilliant writer. Her books are set in Venice and with Commissario Brunetti. And Commissario Brunetti is a fabulous character. He really, really is. I love him. He works in the police in Venice, and he uses everything at his disposal. You get to know a lot about Venice, you get to know a lot about the police. And when I went to Venice itself, I read these, but I'm still reading them. In this one, they're saying, they killed him, it was bad money. A dying hospice patient gasps these cryptic words about her recently deceased husband. Brunetti softly promises he will look into what appears to be a private family tragedy. He discovers that her husband worked for a company that monitored the cleanliness of Venice's water supply and that he had died in a motorcycle accident. Distracted briefly by Vice Questore Pata's obsession with youth crime in Venice, Brunetti turns to the remarkable research skill of Pata's secretary, Signora Elettra Zorzi, With her help, Brunette comes to realise the perilous meaning in the dying woman's accusation and the threat it reveals to the health of the entire region. Fantastic series. I would highly recommend it. Another book which takes us out of Scotland, and I'm doing this deliberately because I think at the moment this is the only way we're getting to travel, is Death in the East by Abir Mukherjee. Abir Mukherjee is a fantastic, fantastic writer, and he takes you to India. Again, it's historical, but it's in 1905 London and 1922 India, in the hills of Assam. It starts in London, but in 1922 India, leaving Calcutta, Wyndham heads for the hills of Assam, ready to put his opium addiction behind him. But when he arrives, he sees a ghost from his life in London, a man thought to be long dead, a man Wyndham hoped he would never see again. Wyndham knows he must call his friend and colleague, Sergeant Banerjee, for help. He is certain that this figure from his past can only be after one thing: revenge. Now, don't you like a story like that? And again, it takes us to a different time, it takes us to a different culture, and it takes us to India, far from Britain and COVID. Another book which was shortlisted for the Orange Prize for Fiction 2010. This one is called The White Woman on the Green Bicycle, and it's by Monique Roffey. And I know Monique, and I am delighted to bring you this book. And again, it takes you to Trinidad this time. When George and Sabine Harwood arrive in Trinidad from England, George is immediately seduced by the beguiling island. But Sabine feels isolated, heat-fatigued, and ill at ease. Her only solace is her growing fixation with Eric Williams, the charismatic leader of Trinidad's new national party, to whom she pours out all her hopes and fears for the future in letters that she never brings herself to send. As the years progress, George and Sabine's marriage endures for better and for worse. When George discovers Sabine's cache of letters, he realizes just how many secrets she's kept from him, and he from her, over the decades, and he is seized by an urgent, desperate need to prove his love for her. A brilliant book and a great read. Another one I'm enjoying, I'm in the middle of this at the moment, and it's called The Binding by Bridget Collins. Now, this is a fantasy book, and I don't read a lot of fantasy, but this one is absolutely outstanding, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. Emmett Farmer is a binder's apprentice, his job to handcraft beautiful books, and within each to capture something unique and extraordinary in a memory. If you have something you want to forget or a secret to hide, he can bind it, and you will never have to remember the pain it caused. In a vault under his mentor's workshop, row upon row of books and secrets are meticulously stored and recorded. Then, one day, Emmett makes an astonishing discovery. One of the volumes has his name in it. Now, it's beautifully written. It captures you from the first sentence and pulls you right in. And I'm thoroughly enjoying it, even though it is fantasy. And I cannot recommend it more highly enough. It is brilliant. Then another one is by Joanne Harris, and this is called A Pocketful of Crows. I recently was very fortunate to receive a copy of her book Orphea, which I would also highly recommend. And this is part of the series. Orphea and A Pocketful of Crows are in the same series. And Joanne Harris is amazing. And these are based on folk tales. They're based on fairy tales. And she found a book of fairy tales in a secondhand bookshop in Scotland. And she has written books based on the fairy tales. They are beautifully, beautifully written. And the characterization, the setting, everything in these books is brilliant. So again, I would highly recommend them. Then I thought I would recommend some from the library that I was given. This one, Janet Ivanovich, Hardcore 24. Janet Ivanovich writes the Stephanie Plum series, and Stephanie Plum is an absolutely hapless bail bondswoman, and it's just a laugh out loud caper. And I thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. And last but not least, I decided that I would ask the library to get me books because of the COVID situation. You can ask the library to choose the books for you. You don't have to browse. And I was given 10 cracking books, including The Reluctant Assassin by Fiona Buckley. And The Reluctant Assassin is a brilliant historical mystery, this time in 1581. March 1581, Queen Elizabeth is once again being urged to consider a marriage to the Duke of Ensign. I don't know how you pronounce that, sorry. A French Catholic 20 years her junior. The prospect of the match is causing tension throughout the kingdom. Ursula, however, has more immediate matters to worry about when her 9-year-old son is snatched away while out riding. If she's ever to see him again, Ursula must undertake an impossibly difficult and dangerous mission and commit an act of high treason. Can she rely on her half-sister, Queen Elizabeth, for help? Well, quite frankly, I don't think anybody could rely on Queen Elizabeth for anything. But hey-ho, who am I to say anything about Queen Elizabeth? And this was Queen Elizabeth I, we might say here, before anybody thinks I'm saying anything about our current queen, because I wouldn't do that. But again, it's a brilliant book, and it just goes to prove that librarians know what they're doing, because they knew what books to choose for me, and they did a brilliant job. So thank you once again to Angus Libraries. I would highly recommend you go along to Angus Libraries and get some books out. Reading is the most fascinating thing you can do. It is the most important thing you can do while we're in the current situation. Libraries are outstanding at supporting people. While they're open, go and get books. Order books from them. I can assure you they will choose you some fantastic, fantastic books, because they know more about reading than we ever will. They know more about the reading choices than we ever will. So thank you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this session. I hope you enjoy the rest of the Book Week Scotland sessions, and keep reading and keep enjoying the books that you get out. Thank you for listening to me. Goodbye.